The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. The high-profile testimony is finally taking place in the Jeffrey Epstein probe. The former president and first lady now making their case against him. Plus,
you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America.
Moment by moment, President Trump shaming Democratic lawmakers at Tuesday's State of the Union. The clear message being sent as the midterms inch closer. And the war on fraud in full force by the White House. New reaction from critics as several states are being targeted over Medicaid funds. From the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, thank you for being here with us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and on this Weekend Edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week, and we look ahead at what to expect, starting with former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testifying Thursday and Friday in a deposition before a congressional committee as part of the Jeffrey Epstein probe.
There are a lot of email correspondence that included President Clinton. We know President Clinton had, and Secretary Clinton confirmed this yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. We know that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times.
Former President Bill Clinton tells lawmakers behind closed doors that he did nothing wrong in his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and saw no signs of Epstein's abuse. Clinton posting his opening statement to the House Oversight Committee on X and wrote the post, quote, "As someone who grew up in a home with domestic abuse, not only would I not have flown on Epstein's plane if I had any inkling of what he was doing, I would have turned him in myself and led the call for justice for his crimes, not sweetheart deals." The former president is not accused of wrongdoing. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton faced House lawmakers Thursday in a closed-door deposition tied to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and denies knowledge of criminal activities. The Justice Department says it is looking into whether it has improperly withheld documents from the Epstein files. Reports suggest the DOJ has withheld files related to President Trump and protected the names of possible co-conspirators to the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has long maintained that he's done nothing wrong. An Epstein survivor says any potential missing files need to be investigated and that none of the fellow victims she knows have been asked about Trump.
Maybe if they're not the victims that stand by me, right, that are beside me, maybe these are new victims that we haven't, investigated or asked the right questions. I think that's what we need to be asking here.
The DOJ's rapid response account on X says in part, quote, "Should any document be found to have been improperly tagged in the review process and is responsive to the act, the department will, of course, publish it consistent with the law." Cuba says the 10 passengers on a speedboat who allegedly opened fire on its soldiers Wednesday were armed Cubans living in the U.S. trying to infiltrate the country and unleash terrorism. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States is still deciding how to respond.
The majority of the facts being publicly reported are those by the information provided by the Cubans. We will verify that independently, and as we gather more information, then we'll be prepared to respond accordingly.
Cuba's soldiers killed 4 of the passengers and wounded 6 others. They were on a boat registered to Florida. Cuba's government says most of the passengers have a known history of criminal and violent activity. U.S. officials say both the Homeland Security Department and U.S. Coast Guard are also investigating the incident. Democrats in Congress say they plan to force a vote on an Iran war powers resolution next week. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says the legislation would require President Trump to come to Congress to make a case for using military force against Iran. The measure is expected to fail given the overwhelming opposition from Republicans and a handful of Democrats. A similar measure was halted in January over war powers in Venezuela. In a rare move, the CIA is now urging Iranians to contact the agency as informants. The agency posted a recruitment message in Persian on X, telling potential informants how to reach out and share intelligence securely. The CIA has issued similar messages in Russian, Korean, and Mandarin, but this post signals a possible ramp up of U.S. efforts to gather intelligence amid a military buildup in the region. President Trump has made clear one of his top priorities is fighting back against fraud. He has now designated his vice president as the one to help oversee that, with several aggressive actions now taken. As our Christine Frizzell reports, critics are calling his actions cruel, saying they are actually about scoring political points.
The war on fraud in full force in Washington.
We have way too many people who got way too comfortable getting rich off of your tax dollars instead of providing the services that they need.
The state of Minnesota, a top target for Vice President J.D. Vance, who President Trump announced this week will oversee White House anti-fraud efforts. His first act, withholding $259 million in Medicaid funds from Minnesota due to claims of widespread fraud. This video from conservative social media influencer Nick Shirley raising multiple red flags, with dozens of daycares, transport businesses, and healthcare companies in Minnesota accused of collecting millions from the government for services never provided.
This is fraud taking place.
It sparked a massive fraud crackdown by Republicans, with multiple hearings, a new nominee for fraud czar to lead the federal government's response, and Governor Tim Walz dropping out of his re-election, also just announcing a new anti-fraud legislative package, blaming President Trump for playing politics.
This is a targeted retribution against a state that the president doesn't like. The White House solution to this is to take health care from poor people. Our solution to it is catch these people before they do it, and if we don't, to lock them away for a long time.
Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz says these programs in particular have been abused for years.
It became very easy to cheat the American government during COVID. When the guardrails were down, because we wanted to make sure that no one got denied care, COVID's over. We have to put the guardrails back up again.
Why is it so hard to fight this?
Because it's ingrained in many areas. The penalties if you commit fraud are trivial. If I steal $5 million from you in Medicaid, it's maybe a year, year and a half in jail. I rob a bank for $10,000. I'm in slammer for a long time.
At Tuesday night's State of the Union address, President Trump made clear his war on fraud would be expanding, naming not only Minnesota, but Maine, California, and Massachusetts as targets. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
With months to go until the midterms, President Trump's strategy was on full display during Tuesday night's State of the Union address. While discussing multiple topics, including immigration and voter ID, Trump singling out Democrats, painting them as anti-American and crazy. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, has the details.
President Trump put Democratic lawmakers on the spot several times Tuesday night during his State of the Union address, from deporting criminal illegal aliens to voter ID and even standing to support USA Hockey. Trump picking specific moments to paint Democrats as anti-American and out of touch. One of the first moments came when Trump began discussing protecting Americans and voter ID, asking lawmakers to stand if they believe in this statement.
The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
Polling from the Pew Research Center shows 95% of Republicans are in favor of requiring all voters to show ID when voting, compared to 71% of Democrats. As for moment two of the night, deportations, specifically when Trump addressed the mother of Irina Zarutska, the Charlotte woman stabbed to death on a train.
Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there.
When it comes to deporting criminal illegal immigrants, new polling from Signal shows 73% are in agreement entering the U.S. illegally is breaking the law, while Harvard-Harris polling shows 67% of voters believe local officials should turn over jailed undocumented criminals. As for moment three, it came when Trump addressed the transgender community and transitioning.
No state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy.
According to polling group Maslansky and Partners, a live panel of voters split among political party reacted in real time to those comments. The red line, representing Republicans, moved into positive territory. Independents in yellow also taking up, while Democrats in blue trended down. Now, following the address, Republican leaders, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, described how Democrats acted as shameful, but Democrats pushing back. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying the address was not America's State of the Union, but rather Trump's state of delusion. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
By the numbers, U.S. mortgage rates for long-term loans have fallen below 6% this week for the first time since 2022. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage now stands at 5.98%. Compare that to 6.76%. Mortgage rates have been on the decline for months now, helping drive a pickup in home sales. Occupied home sales hit a 30-year low last year. Nearly 7 in 10 of all U.S. homes with an outstanding mortgage have a fixed rate of 5% or lower. More than half are below 4%, according to Realtor.com. So we might have to see current rates drop even more to see more movement in the market. Coming up next, candid conversation. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. opening up about his faith, overcoming addiction, what he does every day, and what it's like working for the president. The National News Desk's very own Washington insider Armstrong Williams has more on their discussion. Plus, Instagram launching a new tool to let parents know if their teen may need support. This as Meta remains in the spotlight in a landmark trial over addiction. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. opening up to the National News Desk Washington insider Armstrong Williams. Jan Jeffcoat spoke to Armstrong earlier this week about their candid one-on-one conversation.
I believe that I was born an addict, and I ran particularly in my mom's family, and that I'm biologically hardwired to drink and drug myself to death. And the only thing, and this has been shown again and again, that I can overcome that kind of biological drive is a spiritual fire. We should try to turn our lives into a prayer, so every day to stay in conscious contact with God. And I try to do that in my life.
Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. sitting down for a very candid interview with our very own Washington insider Armstrong Williams, where nothing was off limits. And Armstrong joins us right now to discuss this interview. Great interview, by the way. I thought the discussion about his years-long battle with overcoming drug addiction through faith was pivotal, because he said it is part of his daily discipline. It's part of him renewing his mind every single day. Armstrong, we've talked about this. Wisdom is the knowledge of God's will, and he said he would be dead without that spiritual anchor. What did you find most surprising about your discussion with him?
You know, I spoke with my sister who watched the interview, and she's in this line of work. She says the most difficult cases that she deals with every day. And what he said was, it's every day. You can have all the programs in the world. You can have all the counseling in the world, but in the end, faith and a deeper belief in God and that he can deliver you is exactly what helps people to overcome. And you never overcome, but you can survive it. And for the Secretary of HHS, Jan, to say that he struggles every day, he attends Alcoholics Anonymous every day, really put it in perspective. And it gave people permission that there's no shame in what you have to do to overcome addiction.
In fact, he said pain was the touchstone of spiritual growth and an opportunity for spiritual advancement, which I thought was very poignant, because, you know, he receives a lot of criticism, as we know. He receives all kind of calls to resign. And he says that's not only really made him stronger and kept him on mission, because, you know, he has this end goal, but he doesn't look at it in a negative light. He said that blocks him from his blessing when he gets offended, when he looks at things negatively, because it blocks God from doing all the things that he still needs him to do to accomplish as HHS Secretary. What did he say was some of the priorities that he still hasn't accomplished that he wants to in his position?
Healthy foods, toxins out of the environment, making sure that people can afford healthcare, and making sure that industry doesn't continue to exploit people by giving them cheap food where they pay the price in their health, their well-being, and ultimately they die from it. So, and you know, he's at peace with himself. And let me just say this. I always wanted to ask him about the criticisms from Carolina Kennedy and her daughter Tatiana, who died, and the kind of criticism that he receives. And I thought it was so profound that he saw it as a gift, as a blessing. Even the person who attacked him verbally in Nashville when he was working out, he said, wait a minute, to his security detail, let me listen at what this person has to say. Let me learn how I can be a better human being, a better servant, a better secretary. I mean, that was to me so profound and so enlightening. And it's a message for all of us, the humility in that, the forgiveness in that, and the willingness to work on yourself 24 hours and learn from others how you can work better on yourself. It's just a powerful reminder of what we struggle against. But if we remind ourselves, we can learn something even from the least among us that which we may not always see. We can be better every day.
That's right.
Instagram says it will start alerting parents if their teenage children repeatedly look up topics related to suicide or self-harm. The new feature will only be available to parents enrolled in the app's parental supervision program. They'll get notified via email, text, or WhatsApp and on their own Instagram account. The photo and video sharing platform is also working on a similar feature if kids ask AI chatbots about suicide. This as countries around the world are moving to ban or limit social media for teens. Here in the U.S., the fight is landing in a Los Angeles courtroom where a landmark lawsuit claims platforms are hurting kids' mental health. The National News Desk, Angelo Brown, sat down with two sisters about the impact of social media.
I sat down with two sisters, Isabella, 19, and her younger sister, Juliana, 12. Their screen time on TikTok nearly identical.
I would say 4 to 5 hours per day. On busy days, maybe 3 hours. On non-busy days, it can get up to like 7 hours on TikTok.
7 hours, almost an entire school day spent on a screen. And Juliana knows the impact it can have.
It has an impact on your personality because it really, like, if you're spending this much time on TikTok, you're just seeing all of these other people and you're saying, why can't I be them? Why can't I look like them? Why can't I act like them?
Countries around the world are moving to restrict or ban teens from major social media platforms. Australia became the first country to ban social media for children under 16. And in the U.S., lawmakers are facing that question directly.
Is this coming to America's children, Senator?
It needs to, and I think when you look at what's happening right now with our kids, ages 13 to 17, they have said they actually feel more negative, feel more depressed. Almost 50% of them admit to that after being on social media.
And this issue is hitting a courtroom in Los Angeles where this week a landmark trial over alleged social media addiction and youth mental health impacts is unfolding. The question in that courtroom, the same question families are asking around the world, whether these platforms are actually hurting their kids.
People say comparison is the thief of joy, and I really think that comparing yourself to others online is just self-sabotage.
I mean, I definitely don't compare myself as much as I did to other people when I was her age. Let's say when I was going into high school, I feel like that was when I was on social media the most, but now at 19, I'm able to recognize that what I see online isn't necessarily true.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Angelo Brown.
Testimony continues in the trial of Corey Richins, who was accused of killing her husband in 2022. If convicted, Richins could face decades to life in prison on aggravated murder and related counts. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. You have been looking into this case, but also, Emma, I know that this comes as the FBI just released a new report on an uptick in domestic violence. I know you dug into that. What did you find?
The biggest headline in the report was really that the domestic relationships, they make up a growing share of violent crime in the U.S. According to the FBI's new special report, which uses National Incident-Based Reporting System data, about 25.6% of all violent crimes involved a domestic relationship in 2020. And then by 2024, that number rose to 27.5%. So we're talking about more than a quarter of all reported violent crime having some type of domestic connection.
And which type of violent crimes show up the most in these types of cases?
Sounds like it's aggravated assault. So the report finds that 31% of aggravated assaults involved a domestic relationship, which is the highest share among the violent crime categories that they tracked. Robbery, by comparison, was a lot lower. We're talking about 6.5% involved in a domestic relationship.
All right, Emma, thank you. Later on, Emma will be back to dig into the role gender plays in the domestic dispute data. Coming up, a twisted scheme. Police say a D.C. woman faked her own kidnapping, how the alleged plot fell apart. National News Desk team of reporters is bringing the headlines from coast to coast. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Washington, D.C., where police say a group of women staged a kidnapping to try and extort a friend. Officials say the group tried to trick their friend into sending $500, and the alleged kidnapping victim was in on it. We're told the victim even received a photo of her friend tied up.
And at this point, we're just glad we were able to bring it to a safe conclusion. Details did involve a Cash App account. So at that point, if the money had been exchanged, then what will we be dealing with at this point?
The suspect now face an extortion charge that carries up to 20 years in prison. In Olympia, Washington, a bill that would tighten rules on crypto kiosks is headed for a House hearing as concerns over stealing from older adults increase. One woman says she was tricked out of $17,000 when scammers texted her multiple fake warrants and demanded she pay to avoid arrest.
I did not know that the police don't call you if you have a warrant for your arrest. I did not know that they do not ask for cash. So this was an evil underbelly of the world that I knew nothing about.
An FBI report from 2024 found the agency received over 11,000 complaints about the kiosks, with reported losses of nearly $250 million. According to the report, people 60 and older accounted for the majority of the losses. Coming up, a Supreme Court showdown over the U.S. Postal Service, the major ruling, and the fallout. Plus, new video shows the terrifying moment a sinkhole suddenly swallows 2 cars in Nebraska. Taking a look at the top trending stories on our website right now, the body of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson will return to his birthplace. South Carolina's governor announcing Jackson's body will lie in state at the Capitol on Monday. Check out this video in Omaha, Nebraska. A sinkhole opens up directly below 2 vehicles as they were waiting at a stoplight. People nearby left their cars to help the drivers get out safely, while others helped direct traffic around the hole. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but can you imagine the experience of these drivers? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its nominees for 2026, and this year's list is the largest ever, with 17 artists. Among them, Lauryn Hill, Phil Collins, Shakira, and Luther Vandross. The only artist to make the list in their first year of eligibility is Pink. Those stories and more available right now at thenationaldesk.com. The Supreme Court rules Americans can't sue the U.S. Postal Service. This after hearing a case where a black Texas landlord claimed racial prejudice led to her mail being withheld for 2 years. She said 2 postal employees refused to deliver her mail because she was black and owned multiple properties. 5 conservative justices ruled that federal law shields USPS from lawsuits over mail. The Trump administration warned ruling in favor of the landlord could hurt the financially weak Postal Service. Coming up next, the topic of a surprise meeting between New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and President Trump at the White House. Plus,
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where President Trump and his team are laser focused on the economy, their message, and how it's being countered, coming up.
You're watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. Catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back. The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. Clinton depositions, the Jeffrey Epstein investigation now making history as both Bill and Hillary Clinton make their case against him.
New FBI memos just released allege the Biden administration knew about the 2022 search at Mar-a-Lago. I'm Jeff Harris in Washington. Coming up, the accusations being made and how lawmakers are responding.
And then the FBI sounding the alarm on domestic violence, a troubling trend colliding with a case drawing national attention. From the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dee Gatton, and newly released memos from the FBI appear to show that former President Joe Biden knew about the agency's search of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago property in 2022. As the National News Desk, Jeff Harris reports, it comes despite repeatedly denying having any advanced knowledge.
These memos appear to suggest that a then White House deputy counsel spoke with the FBI, Justice Department, and also the National Archives months before the search, with internal documents stating the search was dependent upon President Biden's brief decision and coordination with multiple agencies. Just the News recently obtaining these new memos, which appear to contradict previous claims from the Biden administration that it didn't have any prior knowledge about the Mar-a-Lago search.
The president was not briefed, was not aware of it. No one at the White House was given a heads up. No, that did not happen.
In August of 2022, the FBI executed an authorized search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, the residence of then former President Trump, as part of an investigation into the handling of classified documents. The following year, Trump was indicted on federal charges. One of the newly released memos reading in part, quote, "This event is dependent upon the timeline of President Biden's brief, decision, and coordination between White House counsel and DOJ." Here's then Attorney General Merrick Garland following the search.
There are, however, certain points I want you to know. First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
President Trump among the many now responding to these new memos, taking to Truth Social over the weekend, sharing a link to the original article. A member of the DOJ's Public Affairs Office sharing this quote from Attorney General Pam Bondi on X, saying, quote, "President Trump was targeted at every level by a corrupt system that thought to remove him from politics entirely." And House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, quote, "It's always worse than we thought. These newly released documents confirm that the Biden DOJ's raid on Mar-a-Lago was politically motivated from the very start." Now, according to Just the News, the memo showed then White House Deputy Counsel Jonathan Sue allegedly had conversations with the FBI, DOJ, and also National Archives as early as April. Those conversations reportedly taking place after the voluntary return of 15 boxes of classified materials. Now, former President Biden has not issued a public statement regarding these newly released FBI memos. Many Democratic leaders have also remained silent. However, historically, they have dismissed allegations of DOJ weaponization. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
FBI Director Kash Patel and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles' phone records were subpoenaed by the FBI in 2022 and 23. Fox News and Reuters confirmed the subpoenas were part of the federal investigation into President Trump's handling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and efforts to overturn the 2020 election. During that time, Wiles and Patel were both private citizens. Patel told Fox News the move is outrageous, he says, and deeply alarming. Since the news, CNN reports Patel has fired at least 10 employees. Former President Bill Clinton is named in the Jeffrey Epstein files, but not accused of any wrongdoing. Friday's deposition sets a precedent for former presidents giving testimony to Congress. A former president can be compelled to give congressional testimony, apparently unrelated to the separation of powers. President Trump also is named in the Epstein files and not accused of wrongdoing. Clinton's deposition opens the door to Trump facing similar treatment down the line. The former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, also testified on Thursday on her ties with Epstein, which she said she never met Epstein. Larry Summers is resigning from teaching at Harvard University over his ties to Epstein. The former Harvard president and U.S. Treasury Secretary said in a statement that his decision to leave is difficult, but he's grateful for his time at the Ivy League school. He'll retire at the end of the academic year, but remain on leave until then. He was friends with a late convicted sex offender long after Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting prostitution. In the meantime, Bill Gates has apologized to his foundation for his past ties with Epstein. According to the Wall Street Journal, Gates held a town hall where he admitted he had 2 affairs with Russian women that Epstein later discovered, but Gates said the affairs didn't involve Epstein's victims. Gates said spending time with Epstein was, quote, a huge mistake, and he denied any wrongdoing in connection to Epstein. President Trump and New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani met again at the White House on Thursday. Mamdani says the topic of the meeting was housing. He posted this photo to social media, you see it right here, where Trump is holding a fake Daily News edition reading, Trump to City, Let's Build. In a separate post, Mamdani said he also spoke to the president about a Columbia University student detained by ICE on allegations she overstayed her visa. He said Trump told him she would be released soon. Also, the issue of the economy front and center for President Donald Trump following Tuesday's State of the Union address. But will American voters have a change of heart before the midterm elections? That will largely depend on whose message wins out, as our national correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
On the topic on the top of voters' minds, President Trump appeared to have gotten the message. It's the economy.
Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. It's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. Nobody can believe what they're watching.
Many recent polls showing voters do not, in fact, believe the country is moving in the right direction where their wallets are concerned. For that, the president blamed Democrats.
They caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem.
His administration out in full force, touting the lowering of prescription drug prices, tax cuts, and what's being called a new age of American prosperity.
Real wages are up, blue-collar wages are up, inflation is down, consumer confidence is up, job numbers in the private sector are up.
Where do you think the disconnect is? Because so many polls, and we're talking Democrats and Republicans, still feel that the economy is not where they want it to be, not where President Trump promised it would be.
What's happening is that people are seeing that they're getting raises, that their jobs are more secure, and that's lifting spirits quite a bit.
A decidedly different perspective from Democrats.
This was Donald Trump's state of delusion. He's in a bubble. He doesn't even know what the average American is going through.
He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms.
Looking ahead, First Lady Melania Trump will chair a United Nations Security Council meeting next month in New York. The meeting is expected to focus on children, technology, and education. Her office says the goal of the session is to highlight the importance of education in advancing world peace and tolerance. This will mark the first time a sitting U.S. First Lady has ever presided over a Security Council meeting. President Trump is considering requirements for U.S. banks to verify citizenship for current and potential new customers, according to the Wall Street Journal. It could reportedly take shape through an executive order. Big banks worry paperwork required to comply would be overwhelming. They also worry that the aim is to recruit executives in the administration's immigration deportation efforts. The White House has yet to confirm or deny the report.
I never thought that he would even have a thought process of bringing a gun to school or doing any kind of harm to anybody else, let alone anybody at school.
The father of a Georgia school shooting took the stand in his own defense Friday. Colin Gray has pleaded not guilty to nearly 30 charges, including murder and manslaughter. Prosecutors argued Gray bought his then 14-year-old son an AR-15 style rifle as a Christmas gift and allowed him unsecured access despite warning signs the teen posed a danger. Gray said he purchased the rifle to get his son away from video games and introduce him to deer hunting. The case is part of a broader effort nationwide to hold parents criminally responsible in school shootings. Authorities say Colt Gray admitted to the 2024 high school shooting. 4 people died and several others were injured. The now 16-year-old has pleaded not guilty to 55 felony counts, including malice murder. His trial date has not been set. As the trial of Corey Richins, the woman accused of killing her husband, continues, the topic of domestic violence is top of mind, particularly since the FBI recently released new data showing an uptick in domestic violence as a whole. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team, and we never obviously want to hear that, Emma.
Yeah.
I know that you dug into a new FBI report digging into this. What does the latest data say about victims?
So the gender gap is pretty striking. That's definitely what stuck out to me. And the commonality of a case like what Corey Richins is accused of is pretty rare. So according to the FBI data, 74.5% of victims in domestic relationship violent crimes were female. Also, according to a report from the World Health Organization, nearly 1 in 3 women, that's estimated like 840 million women globally, have experienced partner or sexual violence during their lifetime.
Well, you mentioned this is a very specific case, but
yeah.
What else does the data say about this case, about other cases? What really stood out to you?
Yeah, so the FBI's data basically shows that domestic violence is not just a small slice of violent crime. It's actually a pretty significant and slightly growing share. And when it comes to murder specifically, the FBI report documents 11,466 domestic relationship murder victims between 2020 and 2024. Overall, during that 5-year period, there were more than 1.1 million victims of other domestic violent relationship crimes. So it seems to be a growing problem. It's tragic.
Emma, thank you.
Thanks.
And for more on that data that Emma just mentioned and more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to their sources, scan the QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com. Top NATO allies believe cyber attacks on hospitals and electric grids are tantamount to acts of war. According to a new Politico poll done in the U.S., Canada, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, a majority of people believe that's the case. Canadians felt the strongest about the issue. The number of attacks on the rise. In 2024, Russia-based hackers targeted U.S.-based Change Healthcare. Over 55,000 pounds of frozen blueberries are recalled because of potential listeria contamination. The FDA just upgraded an existing recall of Oregon potato company blueberries to Class 1. That means consuming the product could cause serious illness or death. They were not sold directly to people at retailers, but were distributed to Michigan, Oregon, Washington, and Canada. So to come, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington, from the State of the Union to making America healthy again.
And welcome back to the National News Desk. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day, and our team of correspondents reports on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. President Trump's State of the Union speech is being seen as the opening arguments ahead of this year's midterm elections, with both parties using Trump's words and policies as a launching point for their efforts to control Congress. A pro-Republican group releasing a TV ad featuring one of the night's most viral moments.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. These people are crazy.
National correspondent Akra El-Nashar, you covered the State of the Union on Tuesday. What are folks saying, not just about that moment, but the battle lines that are being drawn in the wake of Trump's speech?
Well, Steve, in both the State of the Union and to an extent the Democratic rebuttal by Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger, there was so much focus on questioning the other side's intentions and character. Policy, of course, played a big role. It was a 107-minute speech, but it's clear that in this midterm election year, it's going to be about questioning the other side's intentions, asking voters, do you think they're actually working for you, or are they in it for themselves? Are they corrupt, etc.? And in that moment that you played where President Trump told folks to stand up, it was very us versus them, right? He wasn't asking them about an actual policy. And it reminded me of that now infamous campaign ad from 2024, from the Trump campaign that said, Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you. Kind of a similar, again, us versus them messaging there. So here's what Democratic Congressman Paul Tonko of New York told us right after the State of the Union.
He sounded like a divider-in-chief. He did everything he could to divide and divide throughout the speech.
Now, when it comes to the battle lines, Democrats are drawing and pulling from Trump's statements on Tuesday night. They're really looking at that moment where he called out the Supreme Court, which just struck down most of his tariffs. And he basically said, court be darned, I'm going to move ahead anyway. And of course, Democrats are pointing to tariffs as a big reason why they argue the president has not followed through on his promise to make life more affordable.
National correspondent Atra Elnishar, thank you. Meanwhile, the Make America Healthy Again movement has launched some controversial debates about the Trump administration's federal health policies. But national correspondent Christine Frisell, one effort that is receiving almost universal praise is its push to scrutinize the chemicals used in ultra-processed foods. Tell us about that.
Yeah, let's take a step back for a second, Steve, and just think about this country and how prevalent ultra-processed foods are. They're found in every grocery store, on every shelf, even in a lot of schools. So unlike, for example, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s policy on vaccines, weeding out ultra-processed foods is something that has a lot of people on board. So I've been speaking a lot to FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary about this. He actually calls their prevalence an epidemic. He says they are directly responsible for chronic diseases, including for likely a really big increase in diabetes. So he says this is going to be a big priority for the administration, really trying to get them out of our diets.
Some of these chemicals, like BHT, we're going to be taking a close look at. That's on a cereal box. You'll see BHT, you'll see BHA. Azodicarbonamide is used to make the sort of bubbles in yoga mats and in sneakers. And somebody thought, hey, we can put this in dough and make it, rise more. These are chemicals where people have had serious health concerns. We want the consumers to be educated about them.
Yeah, and that is going to take time, and it's also going to take some buy-in from some of these mega food companies who have added these ingredients years ago to try to make food more affordable, just adding these kind of chemicals in. But he is very concerned at how unhealthy they're making Americans, and it seems like a lot of that this isn't really a political issue. A lot of people are on board with this.
Christine, Atra, excellent reporting as always. Thank you both for your hard work. Back to you.
Coming up next here, the controversial nurse who was fired after a viral video targeted Caroline Levitt, the new action she's taking to make an income. Reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America. And we start in Florida, where a nurse is defending her viral video targeting Caroline Levitt.
I hope that you rip from bow to stern.
The graphic video that cost Alexis Lexi Lawler her job as a Boca Raton labor and delivery nurse.
And never normally again, you
is now at the center of a court fight. Lawler is asking Florida's 1st District Court of Appeal to overturn the emergency suspension of her nursing license, or at least scale it back so she can work in non-patient-facing roles.
I'm on the right side of this. You.
The off-duty comments directed at White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt quickly went viral. Lawler was fired by Baptist Health Boca Raton Regional Hospital in January, and the next day the state stepped in, calling her an immediate serious danger.
These people should not have a license.
But in court filings obtained by CBS 12 News, Lawler argues the emergency standard was never met. No patient harm, no clinical misconduct, no prior discipline in 12 years as a nurse.
It's an issue affecting New Yorkers across the state. Sky-high energy bills. Whether you're a homeowner or business owner, you're feeling the pain.
I've turned down the heat in my house to 64 degrees.
Last August, the State Public Service Commission approved a statewide rate hike for National Grid. Now, state Republicans are proposing the Lights On with Energy Relief program, gathering in Albany today to announce a plan they claim will provide $2 billion in relief.
Still ahead, aging doesn't have to mean forgetting. Why some people stay mentally fierce well past 80. Spirit Airlines, once at risk of shutting down, has reached a deal to stay in business. The budget carrier said it has reached an agreement with creditors to exit bankruptcy later this spring or early summer. The airline has filed for bankruptcy twice and struggled with losses since the pandemic reshaped travel demand. Under the deal, Spirit remains independent but much smaller. A new warning about Social Security: the program's main trust fund could soon run out. The checks won't stop, but your benefits could shrink. The National News Desk, Angelo Brown explains how much of a decrease we're talking about.
If you're retired or getting close to retirement, this headline may feel like a gut punch. The main trust fund for Social Security is facing depletion in 2032, but it doesn't mean the money is running out. The trust fund is like the program's backup cash reserve.
And then at that point, the Social Security Administration no longer has a trust fund to draw down, and they can only pay out what they bring in taxes.
And what they bring in taxes may not cover 100% of a person's Social Security.
Social Security itself isn't going away, but it's going to be a very different, either increased taxes or decreased benefits or some combination.
According to a Fox News report, if Congress does nothing, people on Social Security could lose about 7% of their check in 2032 and then see much bigger cuts, about 28% every year for the next 4 years. No matter what Congress does, someone will feel it.
If I raise the retirement age, that's clearly affecting people who are getting close to retirement. If I raise taxes or change the tax system, right, lift the cap, that's affecting somebody right now with a higher tax rate. If I change indexing to inflation, it's going to affect people's benefits.
There are a number of bills moving through Congress right now, Social Security related. The only problem is it appears that none of them are close to being passed. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angelo Brown.
A new study reveals a possible reason so-called super-agers stay mentally sharp after turning 80. It shows such people produce twice as many young neurons as normal, cognitively healthy adults. Those neurons are well equipped to grow and wire themselves into a person's brain. The study also shows a difference in the part of the brain responsible for memory. In super-agers, it better supports young neurons. The study is out in the journal Nature. NASA is adding a new step to its historic moon landing mission. The space agency announced there will be an additional crewed test flight before attempting to land on the moon. Artemis 3 was the mission previously used to refer to a moon landing. However, NASA said that would now be a different mission entirely.
We're essentially going to pull in Artemis 3 to launch in 2027 with a revised mission profile. So instead of going directly to a lunar landing, we will endeavor to rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both of our lunar landers.
The space agency hopes Artemis 3 will get off the ground next year. The moon landing mission will now be referred to as Artemis 4. It is slated for 2028. Astronomers say they may have solved one of Saturn's greatest mysteries: how Saturn's largest moon came to be. The massive, mysterious moon is named Titan. After analyzing data from various sources, researchers believe about 500 million years ago, a lost moon collided with Titan and became one. The theory will be tested using NASA's Dragonfly, a nuclear-powered car-sized rotorcraft. And that'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National News Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Just check your local listings. You can also watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National News Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, have a great week. We hope to see you on Monday.